is actually meditation? Like,
Meditation is meditation has multiple techniques, right? It's a central practice, specifically in Buddhism. If you take the practice of mindful breathing, meditation, which is the practice of just focusing on the breath, just slowing down, stopping the kind of normal. Some monks like to define it as the process of stopping the habits, your daily habits, and just kind of going back to yourself and just being with yourself, with your mind, in a way. So that it's a spiritual practice that was developed thousands and thousands of years before, even before the Buddha. What the Buddha has just used it and kind of developed it further. You have many types of meditations in Buddhist teaching. However, the first, and they compare different meditations to different meditation techniques to a pharmacy that has different medications, right?
okay.
So your daily vitamins can be your meditation on the breath, right? But for certain illnesses of the mind or certain illnesses of the mind, you might need a certain more advanced meditation, like a meditation on death, or a meditation on loving kindness, or a meditation on different things, right? So you pick and choose the right meditation that is more appropriate for the person and their own level, because meditations get more difficult as you go on more on the Buddhist path. However, but meditation does not necessarily have to be a Buddhist practice. This is something very important. This is what makes meditation kind of more trendy these days. You can take it from a Buddhist practice, and you can talk about the 4 meditations that the Buddhists follow. For example, the meditation on the Buddha himself, meditation on death, meditation on other things. But you do not necessarily have to take it to be a Buddhist practice. It can be a secular practice. Most importantly, loving kindness meditation and mindful breathing meditation. Mindful breathing meditation is the kind of simplest meditation technique in which you try to bring awareness to the breath, try to calm down the mind and bring awareness to the breath in the hope of reaching a state of calmness and relaxation. And during this exercise or this practice, you might get some insights as well into your own kind of thinking into your own mind.
Do you practice
meditation?
Yeah,
I developed a practice of meditation which is difficult to do, actually, especially a consistent practice. I feel that a practice of meditation is very important. However, it's also important to kind of learn it from someone who's qualified. I feel like meditation has become very trendy these days, to the extent that anyone is kind of teaching it, or anyone is kind of assuming the role of a teacher in this field. However, I prefer the Buddhist way of learning it. There are certain podcasts and YouTube videos and where you can learn it and try to do the technique. However, the technique is not as easy as it sounds.
So what's the link between meditation and then yoga? And then there is a very famous Hindu, I believe, there is a very famous yoga person from the Hinduism side. But like, Hinduism has a lot of yoga to it.
Yeah.
What's this sort of triangle?
So yoga it was mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as a spiritual path that someone has to follow in order to attain unification, or coming to be one with God, Supreme God, Krishna, according to the Bhagavad Gita. So that is the meaning. When you read the Bhagavad Gita, again, Hinduism, take it as a case in point. So that is the specific meaning when you read about when you read the Bhagavad Gita from a Krishna consciousness perspective. However, yoga today has come to mean so many different things, and mostly in the West it kind of means stretching, so but it's traditionally, this is not the meaning. It's a spiritual path. I compare it mostly to Sufism. Sufism is a spiritual path within Islam. The yogic path is a path, because it's not only about the physical practice. Physical practice is only one aspect. However, meditation is an aspect of yoga. Making sure that, making sure you don't kill is an aspect of yoga. This is why you see many who used to be
Wow.
vegetarians. You have to do certain breath work. You have to do certain meditation, certain concentration, in order to achieve this unification with God, according to the Bhagavad Gita. But now these days, it's more just done as a kind of physical practice, mostly stretching, and taken to be very secular.
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
meditation was kind of made into something more secular.
Yeah. 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 And how long does it take to develop that sort of control over your own meditation? Like, is it a very difficult process? Is it a simple process?
So the most difficult part of the process is to start.
Yeah.
But once you get into it, it fluctuates your ability to, because the mind is very tricky. The mind, if you sit with yourself, you will see how difficult it is to control the mind, or to even just look into it, because it tells you all the stories that you have in your head, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's the power of the mind. This is why the Buddhists have a lot of emphasis, put a lot of emphasis on the mind. It's all about the mind, the mind, the mind, the mind. It's never about God or the Buddha himself. The Buddha is important, but but it's not, it's all about, the Buddha tells you, you have to look inwards. You have to look
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
inside yourself and know the answer yourself, because what's going on in your mind, you can only know what's going on in your mind. No one else can know that, not even your teacher, not even the, you know. So uh, it's important to just start a practice, specifically the most basic way of meditation, which is mindful breathing.
Yeah.
Right, when you develop that for a few minutes, and then you keep building on that, and building on that, and building on that. I would say loving kindness meditation is also one of the most important or most powerful meditations you can experience. There are certain videos on YouTube that can help you with that. um, the loving kindness meditation, it entails that you bring up the feelings of loving kindness in your mind, and then you start kind of, so the way it works is that you start cultivating feelings of loving kindness in your mind by thinking about your parents or your pet or your friends or your family. And then as that feeling grows, you start sharing that feeling with people who you love, and then people who are farther away and farther away and farther away, until you reach people who are kind of neutral to you, and then you might even extend to people you don't even like, and then you bring it back to yourself. So that exercise, that meditation on loving kindness, can be very powerful to a practitioner. However, it's not like it usually they don't recommend it to be done like every day. It's not like the vitamin you have every day.
Yeah.
That's kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
given,
Yeah.
and it depends on the person's personality and their kind of tendencies. If someone has a problem with, an anger problem, or an issue with this, he has a certain psychological problem, loving kindness meditation might be a good meditation for him or her, whereas, your daily vitamins can be just a mindful breathing meditation.
You mentioned Sufi Islam.
Mm.
I have this idea of Sufi music, where we have a lot of sort of the folk music, which has a Sufi element to it,
Qawwali.
and then we have the Qawwali side of
Mm.
things. Do you have any idea if Sufi music is a part of Sufism, or is this something that was added on?
I feel many aspects of Sufism were kind of influenced by other traditions and cultures and religions in which Sufism spread. I believe that Sufism was influenced a lot by Hindu practices that were common in India at the time, and the Sufis have this. I have this practice of Islamizing certain practices that they like. They see a practice. It can be chanting, it can be chanting with music, and then they say, you know what, this sounds cool, let's do it. And then they do it, and then people criticize them, and they say, this is not part of Islam, the original Islam. Why are you doing this? And then they find a kind of reason why this is okay. This is what I mean by Islamizing, certain practices, which is, in my opinion, which is fine. I'm not like however, I'm not fine with assuming that these kind of practices are necessarily part of the original Islam over there.
Yeah.
So they are part of Sufism. I mean, Sufism is a cultural and religious phenomenon. It's not necessarily only religious. It can include a cultural kind of aspect to it. However, assuming or saying or claiming that, you know, this was done before, or this was, you know, a certain practice was practiced before, is not necessarily historically accurate, just for the historical accuracy.
I see.